Comenzamos.
Radio Metroplex.
Presentando
Radio Metroplex.
la mejor programación en vivo desde Arlington, Texas, la capital del deporte, los espectáculos y el entretenimiento.
Radio Metroplex.
La mejor plataforma en su tipo. El mejor contenido
Radio Metroplex.
y diversión.
Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Hope everyone is doing great. Today we have a beautiful day. It's sunny and beautiful outside. Your co-host, Sonia Montenegro here. We are waiting for our main host, Mr. Herb. He's running a little bit late, but he will be here soon. And of course, we have our CEO, Angel Martinez. And our special guest, you guys will get to know more about her in a few minutes. We're here with Radio Metroplex, the capital of sports and entertainment. We're very excited to be here with a very, very special guest. So I'm going to ask you to start sharing a little bit about yourself.
Okay, yeah, my name is...
Well, tell us your name,
Sure,
where are you from, and then...
Okay, yeah, I'm Christy Arnell, and I'm actually from Wiley, which is a suburb of Dallas, and that's... I am the founder and president of the nonprofit organization, Ukraine Unlimited, and so I'm here to talk a little bit more about that and tell you about my organization. Would you like me to go ahead and tell that, or would you like...
Absolutely, yes. Why don't you go ahead and start sharing a little bit about your organization?
Okay, great. Yeah. Like I said, I'm the founder of that. It started in when my daughter served a church mission in Ukraine back in 2015, 2016. She was there almost 2 years in Kyiv. And so I went back with her after her mission there. And during that time, I just fell in love with Ukraine just from her letters and her explanation of what was going on. But when I got there, I just really connected with the people, the culture, everything was just so beautiful. And the people are just wonderful and welcomed me into their home with my daughter. And we didn't have to pay for hotels the 3 weeks we were there. We were fed in their homes. They fed us all their food. And it just was a beautiful experience and learning about their culture, and just fell in love with all of it, as did my daughter. And so when I got back home, I did see a lot of economic struggles while I was there, and thought, how can I help these people that are now my friends? And they were making handmade items, and I thought, well, I could help get those online here in America and see if we could get them sold for them and help them out. So it started functioning, even though it was kind of started as like a little a small business. It was actually functioning as a nonprofit even back then, because all of that was just volunteering on my part. Just it was a way to give back and help them out. And so we got it off the ground online with another partner there in Ukraine that helped me with doing that. And then it kind of grew. We just started adding more and more vendors into it and artisans, and it was really fun and has done great. And I was working on that full time, actually. It got busy. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's been going now for 8 years. Still selling those items and online as they're needed. We've had to, of course, cut back when, I've gone back to Ukraine in 2018, added more vendors and young people that were our runners. They would get those things to the post office because they could write in English and get them off to the U.S. Postal system here to get to people. And so that was helping pay for college tuitions and hospital bills. And I get notes back from people saying, that helped me out. That helped our family. This paid for this bill. And so that was really rewarding. And so I knew that somewhere in there, this was going to have to turn into something somehow bigger. I just didn't know which direction it was going to go. But boy, when that war broke out, I knew exactly why I had gotten involved in the first place. These people had become my close friends. They were my connections. They were my daughter's friends. And in 2018, my daughter also married a Ukrainian.
Really?
Yes. So that was his family, all of their friends combined. So, it was like an epiphany in that moment. The moment that war broke out, I just thought, oh my gosh, these are our friends and family there that need our help. And I jumped in and started getting immediately, are you in a safe area? Do you need to get relocated? Because there were people that were in really bad areas and needed to be relocated. And so we started doing that, getting them from the eastern sides to the western sides. Then I hooked up with the rest of my team that is there now in Western Ukraine. And we kept going with helping all the people getting relocated, getting food, medicine, because elderly people were coming from areas and they didn't have medications, and pharmacies were having shortages, and it was just a big mess. It was a big mess for months in Ukraine. And so our job was just helping, helping, helping. And then even just basic things with the military. The family that I'm connected with is, they have their connections with their family members in the military. And so we needed help that. And so we did. We jumped in and helped. We started getting those basic, even food to the military at the beginning as part of my
Wow.
team. So they were, it was just utter chaos at the beginning. It really, really was. And then we started getting other things that were needed there, uh, just basics. So then we moved on to later. We've been moving on to helping with more displaced people. And then after that, we now are moving in a direction of helping the veterans, because now we've got all the soldiers coming off the front line and they're needing help. They've got needs for physical therapy and PTSD. They've got PTSD coming off the front line and having severe injuries. And we're trying to get a facility up and running for them to have physical therapy and PTSD therapies there at the facility. So that's our current project that we're trying to get up off the ground. And I was just on a call as I was driving here, working on getting that, and several this morning too, trying to get that up off the ground.
Wow, it's incredible everything you've been able to do for them. It's amazing. What a blessing. What a
Yes,
blessing.
it
I
has
can
been.
feel that must be very rewarding, seeing that you didn't know that, when you initiated this, it was gonna take you to where you are right now and help and impact all these people now.
Yes, yes, it has impacted a lot of people, and like I said, we're continuing all the humanitarian things, still getting, shelter for people that are needing the shelter. We're still paying to get them into apartments and things like that, because they're coming there with nothing. They're getting displaced from areas that are getting bombed or occupied. Some we've even helped us escape.
Wow.
We were a part of that, getting a family that was escaping from Mariupol. We've all heard about Mariupol. That was the city that was completely invaded and taken over, and they was also a steel plant there, and those steel plant workers, and they got trapped in the basement of the steel plant, if you remember. And we don't know what's happened to most of the people that have been trapped there still. So one of the families was trapped there for 2.5 months, or actually 3.5 months.
Wow, it's a long
It
time.
was, and their daughter was in another city for university, and she didn't even know what had happened with her family. She had
I cannot imagine being in that situation. That's
lost
horrible.
communication with her family. She had her mom, her dad, and her two twin brothers. At the time, they were 11, almost 12-year-old boys, and they were going through all of these things. They're being terrorized by the Russian soldiers, trapping them in their apartment. So if you can imagine, then they had to finally sneak out with some others in the middle of the night and escape.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, they're coming with nothing, and we're having to help them to get in, assimilate back into the life over there on the western side. Some of them never lived on that side. They don't have jobs there. They don't have anything there. So we're having to get them in some shelter, some food, some clothing, and it's hard. Life is hard over there.
Yes, I bet it's hard. It's a great thing that everything that you're doing to help them out. Now, just to go back a little bit about all the people that you help, with like the vendors. About how many vendors do you have now that you're helping, and are those products or everything that they're doing, is it distributed all over the United States, or how does that work?
Okay, yeah. We do have probably, I would say I'm in connection with about 100 to 150 vendors. And they kind of come and go at different times depending on their availability with the situation with the war. So some have had to be displaced themselves and they couldn't continue their craft or something, or they had to wait till they were able to continue the craft again when they got to a safer area, or come to the States on the U4U program. And we've helped people come to the States on the U4U program too. But yes, those are still available. So all different kinds of things, handmade clothing, embroidery, painted items, all of that is available. And we have that on our, we're moving it over to our website so it'll be easier to purchase those items. But we also have it on our Facebook page. That's always been there. And they can contact me directly on there and order some items. And the photos part of the Facebook page, there's beautiful items there from Ukraine. So if you want to take a look at those anytime, they're there for you to see. And that helps the person making that item, and then it also helps our organization because a little bit of that is they get the amount they want, and then we add a little bit more in so that we can put that back into the organization and help further even more Ukrainians that way. So it's just a really great program we have going with that.
That's awesome. Well, after the show, I want you to go back and share the website and the Facebook Live so everyone can go see what you have in there. But we're gonna take a pause here. We're gonna welcome our main host, Mr. Herb. He was running a little late, just a little late.
I apologize. Apologize. It was the weather.
It was.
No excuse, right? When I'm looking up,
I'm like, hold on, it looks beautiful outside. Traffic is running smooth. What's going on?
No, I apologize, but I'm very honored to have Christine here because she does wonderful things. I mean,
She does,
Can you imagine going through Washington D.C.?
Yes, I was telling him that I just got back from Washington, D.C., advocating for Ukraine, and that bill got passed on Saturday night. We're so excited to celebrate that.
That's awesome. I love
we
it.
fought hard all week, talking to all the senators and congressmen in their offices, face to face, explaining why Ukraine needs that help. So we did it. We helped. We were part of history this week.
Did you at any time think, were you worried that?
Sure, we were, because there's definitely a group of Republicans that, of the GOP group, there, and the MAGA group is definitely against helping. And even my district, Representative Keith Self in 3rd District 3 is against that, and he voted nay. So he voted against the aid for Ukraine. So there is a group in there that is against that, and that's what the pressure was coming towards the Speaker of the House. He was feeling the pressure from that group. He's Republican, but then he decided to do the right thing, and he said that he's like, I'm going to do the right thing and vote, or to put it to the floor to exercise democracy. Let them vote. And so he allowed it to be go to the floor to vote. So I'm so glad that he did, because others did the right thing too and voted yes.
And it's amazing because you ever heard of the singer Bob Marley?
Yes.
He kept saying, "You got to fight for your rights."
Yes.
Sometimes you just got to fight.
We had to just keep. There were almost 600 of us that came from 48 of the states represented there, not just Ukrainians. We were, there were nonprofit organizations, Ukrainians, but there were also people like me that are just native-born Americans, but have felt the need to get in and get involved and help, compelled to do the right thing by them. And so we were all there fighting that fight with them. Many native-born Americans were there helping, and others too. So we all came there with our voice and wanted to do what we could to get that bill passed. And so, because we knew it's been sitting there for a long long time, months, not going anywhere. And
Did you meet with Mike Johnson?
I didn't get to meet with him personally, but we
But-
were waiting on edge with the, watching the speech.
But now you can thank him.
Yes, we can. We will all need to write thank you notes to him, thank you emails to him, and tell him thank you for doing the right thing. I read an article just this morning saying that he was battling with it and didn't know what to do, and they were even threatening his job.
Oh wow.
They still are.
And still are. Yes, certain ones are still threatening that. And he said he needed to just do the right thing and not fear. And he said he's a Christian man and he prayed about it. And that's the answer he got, is to not fear man, and just do what God wants him to do, which
That's
was
right.
to do it.
And looking at Ukraine now, from way back, what a change!
Yes.
It was a beautiful,
Yes.
and now
Yes,
you look
beautiful
at
country with rich history there. A very long, it's been there for a very long time. And I actually have my other organization head on the phone here with me, and he's actually the vice president of my organization. And he could speak a little bit more to that if you have further questions. He's right here.
Well,
Jenny, can you hear us?
it. Uh huh.
Let me see if I can get you on speaker here.
Can we call him and put him on?
Oh yeah, we could even do that.
Can you? Is the phone up there?
We could even do it through Messenger or something like
Yeah.
that. Because that it wouldn't cost us anything
We
to do it through
supposedly
Messenger
have a
or
phone, I think.
or WhatsApp.
Maybe we don't.
I
Sometimes
think
we can't find
If
it.
not, I could put him on speaker here and maybe they could hear him.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, Jennifer, now we're going to get you on speaker. So, yeah, if you have any further questions. Okay, you want to tell us a little bit about the history of Ukraine. How long has Ukraine been around?
That's a lot of negotiation in that regard. If we'll go into the history, which is there always, a debate, here in Ukraine, when the Kiev was started, when Kishak and Horoy, that's basically brothers and their sisters came to Dnipro River and established the Kiev, and that's been for a long time, and Russia a lot of speculating about the point of creation of Kiev, but that was started, back in the day. First of all, we want to say that officially we can say that in 5th century Kiev was started by these three brothers and sisters. And since then, Ukraine started. I'll just further tell you why Ukraine, why the name Ukraine, and basically our first name was Kiev Rus. That's where our original name, and that's the name that we established. In Kiev, that's the name that is coming from Kiev, and that's all our native things that Russia later stole from us. And what I want to talk about is first thing that history of Ukraine is started even earlier with the Skiv tribes. They were really powerful and they owned the lands from areas placed till all the Khan. That's the Mongol king place. That was all their place in between in 3rd century. But after 5th century, we had a lot of wars and splitting the lands, and we got the new, enemies who's coming, from the east, and we were doing wars, but Ukraine was developing, and it was during that time, it was under the name of Kiev Rus. Kiev Rus, and the center of all of this lands was Kiev. That was the administrative center that where the knyaz is also our Ukrainian name for the king. And knyaz, he was sitting in Kiev and he was ruling all Kiev Rus that time. And what I wanted to say that he had all the authority through all the lands, that was, starting, from, where Polish, in Poland today, probably College boards, all of that area, and to the point of having all to Moscow, it was all before, where the Moscow now is, it was swamps, it was all under Ukraine jurisdiction. And first, that was the first thing, and kniaz was ruling over this whole thing, and our country was developing. In 1988, we have the decision of getting closer with the Western civilization. And our kniaz, Volodymyr Veliki, Volodymyr the Great One, we are calling him, he decided to baptize Kyievska Rus. It was a huge baptism, and all the people who were pagans, someone by will, someone against their will, became Christians. It was one of the biggest reforms in the Eastern Europe areas, like during 10th centuries. And coming from that, we started building all our, history, all our education, all the stuff, all our government system, all our monetary, all our, finance system, everything we started building. And kniaz,
No, I think he got cut off. We can't hear you.
hello?
Okay, now we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry, cut it out for a
Yeah,
second.
just for a second. But yes, it's been there since before, in the 5th century is what you're saying. So
Yeah.
it's been around for a very long time, longer than, and that's the point of it, is it's been around longer than Russia.
Really?
Yes, see, there's that, a lot of people don't understand that.
No.
Long before Russia.
Yeah, I just want to go to, to this part of the history. It's quite, interesting part about this, and I'll just tell separately, how it all started. But now I want to be back to, to development. After Volodymyr Veliki, his son came to power. Yaroslav, his name, and everyone called him here the wise one, because he was a really wise man, and he was doing really wise politics with all the Western Ukraine, with all the Western Europe, and it worked. He did a lot of intermarriages of his daughters into different countries, and Kyievska Rus brought the way the reading skills and let me find the word, and writing skills, which is basically, let's say, like this, to all the Europe. We shared the possibility to write, like first, and the biggest that we shared the possibility to write to all the friends. He married his daughter into the French prince, and she brought all our heritage, and it is all coming from Kyievska Rus, which is and from Kyiv. It is all coming from there. And further on, we have the next king, that is coming after. We are going into Volodymyr Monomach time. It is the next kniaz king, like of this area, and he had a son. His name was Yuri Dolgoruki, and I'm sorry, but on that court, that time, he was illegitimate son, and plus he had really bad attitude and manners, That's the reason why Volodymyr Monomach decided to kick him out, and strip him out of any heritage, any power. And he sent him to the swamps where only there were tribes that was the mix of Ukro-Finns and Mongol tribes. And he's coming and trying to establish his own thing. And we all know that the history coming to the point where the Moscow is being formed. His son, who was kicked out from Kyiv, stripped out from any power,
That's the origins of Moscow.
And establishing Moscow, but it was not Moscow. It was just the roots of the Moscow. When it appeared, it only was establishing.
And what year was that, Zhenya?
Basically, Moscow establishment, like There are a lot of negotiation about this matter, but usually people are trying to say that approximately at 12th century, somewhere in 11.
So long after.
The 1147, if I'm not wrong, because I was basically learning this information back at school probably 8 years ago, but the situation is that it's around 12th centuries. That's the first reminding about that Yuri Dovhoruki. He went there and started the mosque, and he got the title of Rostovo-Suzdalski knyaz. It's kind of, we all see where it's coming from. We all know the Russian city of Rostov-na-Donu, and he was the knyaz of Rostovo-Suzdalski knyaz. It's kind of, it means that we see where roots are coming from. Like Russia was created, basically by the offspring of Ukrainian king's son, and we all see that, but that's only first, it is nothing about Russia that days, and the situation is that it is only the beginning of Moscow. Before it became a city, small city, tribal city, it is like a few decades are coming since that day. And since 1147, they're developing, and then, happened the first thing, the son of Dovhoruki. And then he became, in Russia, he's now one of the saints, of whom they're praying, just literally in Christian religion. And that's terrible. He was one of the biggest killer, and, he was stealing, it was, in the history it is written that he was the one who stole the biggest amount of girls from Kiev's Rus, and exported them to Moscow, and it is terrible things what he'd done, and he was the one who shaken the foundation of Kiev's Rus, and on the par with the Mongol Tatar ego, with the Khan, and happened to be that, when they were moving forward, they were attacking Rus, Kiev's Rus, and it was getting weaker and weaker, and then with one day, the Mongols attacking, and Kiev was fall down, and all the administrative center was moved to Lviv, it's the western city today. It was existing that time. And from Kievsky knyazystwo, we are getting Halitsky, Halitsко-Volynske knyazystwo. It's like other, like kingdom that is then gaining back Kiev, like in the years, like of terrible fights. And here we might see that, that Russia, like throughout the history is trying to destroy Ukraine. And now I'm coming to the point where I would like to explain you the name Ukraine, which one sounds in Ukrainian language as Ukraina. In old ancient Kiev Rus language, basically old Ukrainian language, we have the word Okraina. That means that is the territory that was once solid and unified, and then it lost pieces of territory. Basically they were cut it off, or torn off, and after this process we are getting this old word Okraina. It means like the territory that was basically torn apart and only small part of it left. And now Putin and all of his propaganda is trying to really work around this word and tell that this word Okraina means Okraina, which means like on the side, like on the side, like kind of side stuff that was always the appendix, just nothing special. And they just completely messing up the vision, like from the word Okraina, like which one, the area that lost their territories and only little piece left, to this, like wrong perception. And what we are getting here, that we are left with that, that Ukraine evolved into Ukraine. Ukraine, and everyone's in America know it as Ukraine, and this is the biggest problem that we are facing. That propaganda, Russian propaganda, working really hard there down the billions and billions, into all of that thing to just shake the vision, and twist the truth, that is coming from our history, and that's not only it, that's the old history. And let's go now, into not far ago, let's jump from, 15th, 16th, 17th century back to 20th century, and what we can see there, that in 1930s, the population of Ukraine, according to, there are different information on that, but approximately on that date, we had 72 million Ukrainians. And then Stalin's, regime organizing Holodomor. That's basically the famine. They just organized the artificial famine to kill Ukrainians. After the famine finished, we have around 60 million people. It means that unofficially, because it was not recognized officially, by
Until recently,
USSR, by USSR, that 12 million Ukrainians was killed from 1932 to 1933. Just, you can imagine the number, That's terrible. And what we are coming at, that all the USSR vision was super close with Nazis' vision, because we all know in 1939, on the Red Square, that's the main square of Russia in Moscow, Ribbentrop and SS army was marching with USSR army together as collaborative army, as best allies. It is just 2 years before the war started in USSR between Nazi Germany and USSR. And it happened to be that we just always have to question, just two dictators who had the same visions and who had the same perspectives, who had the same methods. Hitler and Stalin, they were really close, just with a little bit different ideology, I mean, not a little bit, completely different ideology. I'm sorry, I need to correct myself here. Completely different ideology, but their method of suppressing and dealing with people were really the same. For them, human life was nothing. It cost nothing. And they were the allies, we have to always remember that Hitler and Stalin were allies. Nazi Germany and USSR, it was allied. They were allies. And what we are facing here, and we all know the consequences of Second World War, because I want to jump, from that time to now, but I want to do a little remark in between. At the end of 1945, we had around 50 million Ukrainians left. It means that during the Second World War, somewhere 10 million Ukrainians disappeared. Just a lot of people are saying that someone ran to the West, someone, but that's a lot of speculations. Just, the biggest losses was among Jewish population. And the second after this was Ukrainian population, because what Russia did, what USSR did, they were taking Ukrainians and sending them as the meat shields against the Nazis, and that's not only it. For example, Nazis came, through all Ukraine and came into the USSR, Russian territories to cutting out for you.
No, you're okay.
Okay. And they came to the point, and after they were kicked out, after America got into the war, and it was this big twist, we got the basically United Army that basically twisted the vision, Russia likes to brag, oh, we won the war. I mean, piece of bullshit. I'm sorry to say this, but Nazis were ready to move further to Moscow, it was the next step for them. If not only the change on the western border, because America got into the war, it'll be a completely different story. But back to the story how it all was done with the Ukrainians, and basically soldiers that time. After that, Nazis left. They left huge minefields, and they had their general who was leading the war at that time, and he was forming the squads that was called basically ranger squads, and they were sending the squads the minefields, and people were that's the way how they were demining fields. People were going, exploding. Next was were going, exploding, exploding, exploding. They were just taking out mines from the ground with the power. Like in the cost of human lives, like thousands of human lives. But that's only methods, as Russia likes to say, like everyone who won the war, like writing the history. But when we're coming to 1945, what happened there, like in Germany, when Russian troops got after, Nazi Germany was was coming to its end. Hitler killed himself with his wife. We don't know what really happened, but his dentist told, like from his tooth, that was burned. Really Hitler, yeah. But the point is the wave of the rapes that happened when the USSR army got there, and Wagner group, it existed at that time, they all got there, and the wave of the rapes that come through the Berlin and all the side cities, it was terrible, not only this, just random killing and everything, and it was horrible. But just here, I just want to jump, like to the point of
Before you do that, maybe we should have, if you have any other, let's ask if there's any things you want to add or questions that you had first.
I think that's really eye-opening, and
There's a long history there.
a long
with
history,
Russia.
and we're learning a lot of things that we did not know.
Mhm.
And I think we need to explore more and educate. And I really appreciate uh, the history, because history makes a lot of difference. Uh, we the more we learn, the better we will be.
Mhm.
Uh, it's amazing how even though we have all this social media and everything, we still don't know everything. We
Right.
still, or the information
Distorted.
is distorted to way.
Mhm.
But
On purpose too.
I yeah, I think what we have to do now is do a plan on how we can make it better. Uh, what does Ukraine need? Uh, I think the United States and NATO are stepping up to the plate. Uh, is it enough? What's the outcome? I mean, we got to rebuild Ukraine.
Right. Yes.
So that's another big step coming up, is the rebuilding. Where are all the Ukrainians? I mean,
A
they're,
lot of them are displaced.
I
They're
know.
outside of Ukraine. They've gone to European countries. They've gone to Canada. They've gone to the U.S. on the U4U program here. They're all over the place, and it's so many like they're getting assimilated in their new areas, and they need to go back to Ukraine when the war's over to their country so they can go back and rebuild and be a part of the greatness of of Ukraine is what it originally was. I mean, and as you heard, the history there, Ukraine has been there since, the 5th century.
That's amazing news. I mean,
And there's proofs of that. They've
yeah.
got, they're in Kiev, they have the buildings there that date back to that. So.
What surprised me is how many Ukrainians were crossing the border coming from Mexico. How did that happen?
Well, a lot of them because they were so desperate to get here, and I even had friends that had to do that. Wow. They had to come up through the Mexican border because they couldn't get in because the U4U program got opened up so late in the game.
Oh.
They did not open up the refugee program. They kept hanging on, and we're like, when are you opening this up? These people are needing to come here. They're fleeing from places they're getting bombed in. They needed asylum. They needed to come here for safety. And so they were desperate. I had a friend, she's in Colorado, and she had adopted 4 kids, and they had 2 siblings that were out of the, had been out of the age range for being in the orphanages. So they had aged out, and so they were like only maybe 21 and 24 years old, and so they still needed care and refuge. So she was like, of course we want the siblings too, the older 2, so 6, it'd be 6 altogether they were taking in. And she even had her own 4 of her own children, but she felt compelled too. Her daughter had gone on a mission there as well, and just felt that they needed a help. And so they adopted 4 before the war broke out. And when the war broke out, the 2 older siblings, they were trying to find ways to come over, and they couldn't because the U4U program was not in place yet. So the only way was to come up through the Mexican border and through asylum that way. And then they were granted that, and they had to then, because there were one boy, one girl, one had to go to Louisiana, the other one had to go to California.
Wow.
So because they separated them
They
by
separated
gender.
them?
The ones that are going from asylum need to go. The girls go over to Louisiana. The boys go over to the young men go over to California. So this poor mom had to drive all the way, and she was in Colorado. Drove all the way down to Louisiana, picked up the daughter, then drove over to California and picked up the other one. So
Huh? Oh,
and
that's
brought them through. So
interesting.
yes, they came up through the border that way because that was the only way for them to come here.
I
They were
mean,
trying all different kinds of ways. They were talking to the attorneys. It was the only way. So at the time.
that's amazing. I just think of a family being separated like
Yes,
that.
she wanted their siblings to be with them, even though they were aged out of the system and older. They weren't that old. She's like, they're still young people needing to be with their younger siblings.
Yeah.
So let's get the whole family together.
Yeah.
So
Why do you think Russia had to attack Ukraine? What is it that Russia wants?
yeah, there's I'll say a little bit of that, and Jenny, you can jump in too. But Ukraine has a lot of great resources.
Ah,
There's a lot of great resources there. They are the breadbasket of Europe. They provide all the wheat, there and to other countries, to Africa, and many other produce items get shipped out from there. So that's a huge part. It's also by square miles, it is the largest country in Europe. A lot of people don't realize that.
really?
Mhm.
I did not know
I
that.
didn't know that either.
Right. And so that's a lot of territory for them to obtain,
Yeah.
And then it also has a lot of other, resources there. They have the nuclear power plants, the largest nuclear power plants, and other things. I mean, it's got, Putin's not dumb. He knows what he's trying to get there.
So it's got a lot of things that would benefit.
Yes, Jenny, you want to add to that? What other?
I want to add the last part from
And you'll need to make it quick because we're kind of running out of the
We got
time. We only
5
have about
minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
4 minutes. Oh, 4 minutes left. Okay.
I'll try to be really short. With this. First of all, first he told that we were supplying Africa, and I can give you a really significant amount. For example, on the Horn of Africa, we were supplying 30% of all the wheats. And not only that, in Ukraine we have 10% of all the black soil on the earth. Just to give you imagine. And that's not only it. Like Christy was talking about resources here. We have a lot of gas. We are not working with this, because we don't have enough finances for this before, and now that's because of the war. But that's what they want to take over, and we even have gold, and we have other really important resources. And the biggest problem that I want to pinpoint, that all of this attack, all of this invasion, all of this war was done because on the propaganda that we need to denazify people in Ukraine and demilitarize them, because they are really dangerous. And this is coming out of the amount of people who were allies with Nazis, like just 80 years ago, you can imagine the paradox, they were close allies with Nazis, and now they want to denazify Ukraine, who's working with United States, the most democratic country in the world, who is working with Europe, with the own values, who is working with the Great Britain, like we are people who is going into, into we want to get democracy, want to evolve, we want to get out of this post-Soviet Union, like thing, and we are really, trying to get out of that, but Russia really can't. If Russia can't exist without Kiev, without Ukraine, because everything they sold, even the name Russia, was sold from the name Kievska Rus. Here, Rus and Russia, Россия, it sounds similar. They sold everything from us, even coming to the name,
And
they
even
just
trying
want to devour Russia. Russia. I mean, like Russia, which one we have to call Moscovia, because I mean, like Russia is coming, as I'm saying, from our name, and we need to call them Moscovia, and this Moscovia trying to devour us to become the full solid empire that owns all the territories and all the heritage.
And not just Ukraine, they plan to go to the Baltics, Poland, and those the post-Soviet Union countries. They want those back.
Wow.
And he's even said he'd like to have Alaska.
That's going to be a good one. But
So yeah, there's that.
but we've got about 1 minute, and we've got to do this again.
Yeah, there's
I mean,
further things that we'd love
Yes.
to talk about.
Yeah, this is. I've
know.
got more questions, and
And
I think an understanding,
mhm.
and I'm sure there's some Americans saying, "Well, why are we doing this?" So
Yes,
they need to learn
yes.
and get
Why we need
educated
to-
why we're doing it.
Well, and one of the reasons I went there to, the Capitol Hill to talk about that and why we need to do this is because if we don't and they cross over into NATO territories, then that means we are obligated to bring our kids, enlist them, draft them, and put them into the Third World War.
Yeah.
Over there.
We
We don't want that.
We don't want a third world war.
Yeah, and even Republicans can agree with me on that because they are all about national security.
Right.
So, let's just not let that happen. And if Ukraine has never asked for men and soldiers, they've asked for ammunition and supplies, and let us fight our own war here,
Wow.
and we will save the rest of the world doing it. And they know it. They know it's on the backs of them, and they are willing to do it.
Well, I'm very happy to have met you and learn about
Sure.
your
Yes, you've shared a lot,
your thing.
I know that was a lot of
of history.
And
information, but
we still have a lot more to learn
yes.
and understand, because we don't want a World War III.
No, none of us do.
I really.
Yeah, let me do a little remark about World War III. Can I?
Well, I think we're out of time. We're gonna have to come back, Shinya.
We'll have to come back and cover some more, and I really appreciate it, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'd love to.
And I like one day
Mhm.
maybe we'll go to Ukraine and
Of
see.
course.
Let's do
Love to
it.
travel.
Yeah,
Yes.
go see it. It's beautiful. You need to see Lviv. I'll show you some pictures when we're off the air here, and how beautiful the country is. It really is beautiful. They have very beautiful buildings and architecture and things like that, and things to see all over the country. So you really need to go there and see how beautiful it's like Europe's best kept secret.
And we thank
So-
the U.S. government for doing the right thing and
Yes,
supporting Ukraine.
Thank you to the Speaker of the House,
Yes.
Mike Johnson. Thank you for putting that to the floor. Thank you.
And so it's been wonderful. And anyway, when you will be back,
Okay.
and we'll go more into depth. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. And
And
just a quick plug. Look us up on UkraineUnlimited.org. You can also find us on Facebook just as Ukraine Unlimited. We're there. So look us up, and if you feel that compelled to help, get in touch with me, or you could even make a donation there to help our programs out.
Yeah. And if you forget, contact the chamber, and we'll get you over to her.
Today's the last day to vote.
And today's it's Epic Waters, the park right here in Grand Prairie. Today's the last day to vote to make them #1 theme water park. So
fun.
let's
Yeah,
do
I can
that
see it
for
right here
the
from the
area.
window. How fun.
But anyway, thank you so much, Sonia. Thank you for
Oh no,
everything
my
you do.
pleasure. My pleasure. It was an
CEO.
honor to have you
Thank you
here.
so much.
Love
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
We have the CEO, Angel Martinez. We got our producer, Gloria. Yeah, and then we'll take some pictures, and
Okay.
we'll be back. You'll be
Thank
back.
you to
Zhenya.
Jenny, thank you so much. It was incredible to hear everything you said.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for this possibility to spread the word, like there in America, for more people to understand our Ukrainian heritage and who we really are and what we are what we are fighting for and what we are trying to achieve. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely, thank you.
And that's what makes our Chamber of Commerce the most dynamic, innovative, and unique chamber is that we really want to know what's happening. We work together and we're a great group and we got great leaders. Right, Sonia?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
We got super leaders. And again, thank you, Sonia.
My pleasure.
She's a tremendous host here with us. And what a team. Thank you, everybody.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was great.
Yes.
La base de datos de virus ha sido actualizada.
Bienvenidas. Comenzamos.
Radio Metroplex.
Presentando
Radio Metroplex.
la mejor programación. En vivo desde Arlington, Texas, la capital